We'll say good evening. Nice to see everyone. Whoa, this is amazing. I'm in Giddyville right now with these amazing women. I'm in their presence and sharing space and in four corners, and it's really amazing that I'm here. I'm just an urban indigenous woman that was looking for guidance. I was looking for my story and my ancestors and understanding. And I came upon actually, Renee, you said Sarah, and I traveled through Sarah's home really before we went on our first journey together. But I just like to welcome everyone this evening. And, I've been getting messages all day saying that, whoa, I saw who is joining you. What's going on? What's happening? And so welcome to everyone that's joining us this evening with Grandmother Renee Thomas-Hill, Gail Whitlow, and Wendy Hill, and myself, Jody Harbour. And I'd like to, we also have someone coming on, Kevin Deer, and we're going to have a conversation this evening, but I'd like to just say hello to everyone, and you can say hello.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to have you join us. We are all excited too because it's a reunion for us because it's such an opportunity like this to come and share this friendship that we've always had. We've had this for many, many years, way back, and to be reconnected again is a powerful thing. And so I'm very grateful. I like to, at this time, mention Sarah Smith, Grandmother Sarah Smith of Six Nation. She was a powerful woman that she brought an understanding of uniting a lot of all the people, and that was her goal, was to unite people. And so tonight we are. I would like to say thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all that you have shared with us, and that we are continuing to do your work that you have been doing for a while. And so at this time, we like to say thank you, and to acknowledge her family for sharing of her. That we had made many journeys, many trips to bring that possibility. And so I want to say thank you to Sarah and to all those elders that we had met at the time. We had many gatherings, and I like to mention Dawn Hill. She also was very instrumental in bringing, guiding more people to come and understanding the unity of all nations. And so that's why we're here again tonight, is to share all about what is going to be. And so I like to say thank you for being a part of our evening.
Well, again, good evening to everyone. I mean, it is a very special evening. Having such great conversation is always important, especially during these times. I guess you could call them post-COVID, pre-COVID, COVID times. I don't know what you can call them, but so we've gone through this. Our peoples have gone through these types of things many years, and it's really good that tonight our focus will be on, bringing some of this to light, and also introducing Kevin's conference that he's put together on the weekend. I've seen the lineup, and it's really amazing. So I look forward to always, refreshing your minds with all of the knowledge that comes through. And it's really nice that there's so many people interested right now in, in that knowledge, because years ago it wasn't like that. We were afraid to share with our non-native relatives, and even though we have the Great Law and we have the four nations coming together as one, sometimes we forget that it's four nations is the red, white, black, and yellow nations that we need to bring together. And I remember elders talking about the need for peace, and that we have what it takes. So people are going to be coming, they said, to your doorstep because you people have what it takes for world peace. And I'm going, our people, world peace? What? You know, but it is true. It is true. We hold the key, and we hold the words, and and we hold the teachings that really are important during this. I would call it a critical time, but also a beautiful time. There's been so much beauty that's come to the front since this pandemic or whatever it is has come. And it's just like amazing to me that we're starting to see that people have their eyes open and they're ready now to hear. And it's so nice that those beautiful souls that have are able to dance back to the stars now because they're being heard, and they're being they're being prayed to, and they find that that healing that we need. We get the healing that we need from that, and they get that healing that they need to make that journey to the sky world. All those beautiful children that we've lost over time. So with that, uh, thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to great conversation.
Good evening, now to Grandmother Renee and to Gail for your words. Those were very special, and I was really excited when I heard of Kevin's gathering that he was putting together, and I believe that a lot of these changes that we were warned of, we're seeing it, and it's kind of exciting, but it's scary at the same time because prophecies are sometimes they can be misread, or they can be very deliberate and just plain and simple, and you think you're seeing it, and then you really see it, what they warn you of. And I think that we're um we're walking into a time where the knowledge that our ancestors suffered over um, are going to be so necessary. And that unity, the unity of people, that's something that has been one of the greatest obstacles all over the world, is having people like-minded and trying to come together and survive and um, get through these challenging times. And I think that it takes special people to lead, or to try to help the people to stay calm and to know how to connect one another, to connect to the spirit world, to connect to nature. Those are our answers. That's the answers that we need in these times where it feels unsteady. And so I'm really looking forward to this weekend and hearing the speakers. And I hope that Kevin's able to join us soon, as he's the one who's leading this. But that fire that they talk about, I heard some different teachings around it, but you know really that fire is what's inside all of us. That's our spirit. That's a knowing and a knowledge and a wisdom. And when you rekindle that, when you start to bring that out in people, and you start to bring that goodness and that knowing, that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it safe, is being able to do that with one another. So I send lots of love and praise to the ones before us who hung on to these teachings and these prophecies, and I guess the skills that we need to go forward. And so I'm real honored to be a part of this talk tonight. I hope it happens. When Kevin gets here, where is he? So I just want to say thank you for that. There's a lot of prophecies I've heard in my life, not just from the Haudenosaunee people, but all different peoples, and even recently I was in the north, and I met a lady there, and she was talking about this year of 2021, and she says, this year is the year of the mirror. And I said, what? And she said, yeah. She said, this year is the year where people are really going to have to look at themselves, and they're really going to have to question if they're adding adding to the solutions or if they're adding to the problems. And so she said it's going to be a real challenging year for a lot of people to look at themselves honestly. And so I encourage people to you know do the best you can to be honest with yourself and to make the changes that you need to make. Like that Michael Jackson, that Man in the Mirror or something like that. His song, I think, was so appropriate. And I think enough people this last year and a half have had to look at themselves and had to look at their relationships and their family and all of that, because we haven't been having to run off and go somewhere, and be too busy. That's there it is in our face. So don't run from it. Make the changes that you need to make. Make that, connection, the connection of goodness from the sky world to the earth, like Mother Earth and all the creation. They have all kinds of goodness in them. You just got to be able to change your lens so you can see it. But that's what I want to share. Uh, did he get on?
No, not yet, but we have to hold up the torch till he gets here.
Oh,
So I like to kind of share the how we started. It was way back in the 80s, and Sarah had been traveling quite a bit in that time, meeting with the other elders, because we were almost on the trail of our men that was going out to Wounded Knee, um, the Trail of Tears. A lot of revitalization was happening. The men had gone first. A lot of our men from our territories had gone out to help other nations by bringing the Ganaligoa, and now it was the women. They prepared that path for us. And so we got together as a group of women, Iroquois women, we were called, and we decided to have a gathering. And we had 4 gatherings. It was called Awakening the Spirit Within, and Healing the Spirit Within, and Nurturing the Spirit Within, and Protecting the Spirit Within. And I think this is a time that we had went forward and sharing that spirit within, because we were going to do the 5th one, but we never got that chance because we were in the process of doing um, other things that came on to our plate. And that was we got together with Don Hill, that was trying to bring the Indigenous studies to McMaster University, and she also was bringing in people, and we got to understand the same, as they say, the same situations, the same things that we were all going through, and it brought a closer relationship. And from that, we had many the cry of the eagle, and we had many gatherings along the river, and we were always in ceremony for this day. We were in ceremony for this. I would say 2012, when they said the world was going to end, and that's what it was to end the way that we have become accustomed to. And people
mm,
thought it was going to be the end of everything. But no, it was to be the end of the world that we got accustomed to all that violence. And I hear today how people say they would like things to get back to normal. You see, that's not normal, being bullied and being, as they say, being challenged every day in our lives with a lot of violence. And so what we are doing right now is we're in that process of all those ceremonies is creating this new world. We are the helpers of those ancestors that had paved the way. And so here we are today. And so I like to say welcome to a dear friend we had started all together a long time ago. And so I like to say thank you for making this time with us, Kevin. It is so good to see you again.
Yeah, right. Sure. So honzo Senora antka daso koneka wagranda gatko edokara ni wanage nyare mitsanunya are ti wado skatna do tarunyu wani zarada no hodo kari wahere toski yori huano gigo hun sagayu no gwadi ni tunano tano no hodo ti humjeha ne wani zaradanyu nekti rajigi so yutsanunya neti tiniji chudaso tiunzade senora wani zarade agwego no hoto do wana duko yetini sta hoto se yugot kon haje agwego no hodo kwatsta wani zarage tedi ujera no hodo kana anago no hoto gaharuni nioni agwego nioni se tiniji se agwego do dio daje nioni so nagadi tinagane choko agwego nagadi tiniji de yonya tadayo wado agwego aska ne katsuda no urado agwego nene so uyera ga saragoa ti agwego saigo ga ido so uni zarade kadina yotin nuna so anyway just to acknowledge each and every one of us that are on this talk at this time. So as I'm looking around, we're all still here, and even though there's a lot of things that I heard you discussing that sometimes could be distressing to our minds, what we have to look at today, and all of those things are still providing for us. So we just offer an attitude of gratitude to everything on this lower world and the upper world. We're grateful to have this time together. So yeah, so anyway, welcome, and it's nice to see you all. Great. So what's next, Will?
What's next? We made it.
Yeah.
Kevin, together our patience. Let me tell you, this is really wonderful. I'm actually going to step out of the room and let you all have a conversation, but I just wanted to just share how this came about. And just over the last month or so, grandmother Renee and Gail, both at separate times, mentioned your name to me. And then it came up another time from someone completely, not in, well, here in the room. And then I woke up and then I messaged you that morning, and here you have this amazing gathering that's coming up this weekend. And so as I circled back and told Renee and Gail that I reached out to you, and you're so kind to be like, yes, I'll for sure have a conversation with these amazing women that I know. It's just time to continue this journey, to share this knowledge that everyone that has introduced themselves this morning has mentioned. And so I'm really honored to have been able to bring all of you together this evening to share the words that people need to hear in this time. So Nyawa, have a wonderful visit, and I'll see you when I see it winding down.
So how much time do we have? When does this
How
end?
much time do you want? You made it here now, so you might as well stay for a good visit.
We have
When
till
Wendy
midnight.
leaves, she's usually
Can
right
we
on
stay
time.
up that late?
Right? As long
Yeah.
as you all want. There's people coming on, and they're already sharing wonderful messages. So you have a conversation, and please, Kevin, if you don't mind, if you guys miss something about what we need to share about your event in your gathering this weekend, I will share the link in the side and continue to invite people to the gathering this weekend. So enjoy your time together.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So who begins?
So you gotta, cause you were last in. How did this come about?
All right. So I guess first of all, we have to understand that a lot of teachings and the wisdom comes from our language. And I'm just going to give you a few for instances. So if we're having a conversation in Mohawk and you ask me, "Ukaniza," my response is going to be, "Hukuhuenigi." When we look at that word, and we have to understand too that every generation since colonization, we lose certain understandings and thinking. And of all the times that I spent with all of the older people, and especially my uncles, because of my dad's side, most of them were always involved with our own ways of knowing the longhouse and such. So when we would have discussions, he says, "You know what the real word of Ho'oponopono means?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, we know the first part of it talks about Ungwe. Ungwe is people. So as people, when we look at this walking soil that gives our spirit expression, for the most part, we're either male or female. Ungwe comes from the root word Zinawe. Zinawe means forever. So that's our essence. And where does that come from? Well, again, in our language, we say, "Isinutkarugyati." What does that mean? It means the other side of the blue, because we call the sky Garunya. That's why we say Orunya, Garunya, Garuyage. So we're talking about on the blue, but it goes to the other side of the blue. That's what it's translating. And when you get to the other side of the blue, well, where is that? The edge of the universe? Another portal that takes us into another realm? We can't say for sure, but it says that it goes into something that is beyond this. And then, well, who are there? So we say, Garuyage Ronu. Again, Garuyage Orunya. So we talk about sky beings. We talk about sky people. We talk about the star people. So when you try to put that all together, when we say who we are as Ungwe, we know that we originate from the great mystery, that source of life. Some call it Yetzi Zizu because she was blossoming flowers that leaves from that place, follows the water, and comes to this lower world. So when we come to this lower world, we're mixed with all of these elements, and essentially what we are is we are walking earth. And this walking soil gives the spirit this ability to give itself expression for a time. And then what's going to happen is, we call our in Mohawk, well, we'll say, well, akwadzire, zahwadzire, agohwadzire, rawadzire. The root word in there is odzire. We make a fire right now. So you see the smoke, you see the heat, you see the orange, you see the wood, and at the bottom of the orange, where the heat is and it's being consumed, those red hot coals is odzire. So when we talk about family, kahwadzire, odzire, we're talking about that sacred fire that exists in us all. So when you put those 4 words that I put together, Ungwehunwe, Isinut Karuhyati, Karuyage Rono, and Gahwadzire, that talks about everything that we are. That's pretty powerful because we are already guaranteed everlasting life. Our language tells us that we come here for a time and we're going back home to where we originate from. You know how powerful that is? You know how strengthening that is to know that this 100-year existence that we have, not many of us make it to 100, but if we look at that lifespan of 100 compared to eternity, it's nothing. But yet people argue, they kill, they rape, they steal, they do all of this stuff because of fear. Because, well, what if? What if there's no such thing as isinut karuhyadi? But you just have to look at how this intelligence works. And this intelligence that put everything together, and in our creation story, it's a dream. So Rarundade, who is the guardian of the tree, has a dream. And the dream has to get fulfilled. That's why midwinter we have dream guessing, right? Because this whole thing that we are all in, that people argue and kill for, is nothing but a dream. And the dream gets fulfilled because somebody guesses it and everything comes to fruition. When you compare and contrast with the Ojibways, so then it begins with a clap of thunder and all of a sudden there's a first thought. What's the difference between a thought and a dream? Nothing, because a dream is just a series of thoughts. But it all starts with this imagination that said that all of this is going to follow some type of an order. And if you even look at your own birth story, what happens to us? We all come out of the womb of our mothers. And in our own birth, what happens is the water comes first, the contractions start, and we are literally pushed from that womb down through the birth canal. And here we are, we're welcomed into this physical world. Beautiful. Let's look at Sky Woman. She's pushed from that other place, and what does she do? She follows the water. All life comes out of women because women are that sacred vessel. Even when we look at our creation story, Darung Yawagum, again, Karunyage, Darung Yawagum, he's holding the sky. He comes out of Sky Woman's daughter. So when we look at the earth and how we connect to all of this, that's how we connect with spirit. Because in order to understand the creator, so then we look to creation. And in creation, all of these natural laws are there that give then meaning through language, that gives us understanding about how we can put this together. So then we talk about our language. And we say that with all the complex grammar and all of those things in there, that we could have never taught that up. Where today the pure languages follow certain patterns, and it's evident with all of the pure languages that exist here on Turtle Island. Where other languages are a mishmash of different, but they're not, like, if you would say, like they haven't been like, I guess if you would say, crossbred, because some languages now are hybrids because it has different aspects of it in there. But we know that our languages came from Darung Yawagu, the holder of the sky. And then we were given original instructions. And what was the original instructions? Well, first of all, we know that the Great Spirit didn't give us all of the knowledge that was necessary, because the birds, the animals, were already here before us. So the instructions were, look at the birds, look at the eagles, look at all of those things. And you're going to gain that knowledge about how to build family, about cooperation, about being protectors. And at the same time, those animals are not going to give you some of those knowledge and those teachings. But what they will also do is they will provide you with food, with clothing, with shelter. But the whole idea was understand that those things are gifts and you need to respect it. And you only take what you need. And whatever you take, you always put some back. You share, you cooperate, you work together. And you be mindful of those future generations that are going to come. When they'll be born, they'll inherit just what you had, a gift. Look at it, how pure it is. You can go to any stream, you can drink. You have berries, you have fruits, you have nut trees, you have all this different kind of stuff. So you know what? Take those things that you know, learn from it, and beautify this place. So for as long as we know, since time immemorial, the way we understand, That's what our people did. Until the invasion that happened about 500 years ago with a whole different mindset that says, oh no, you have dominion over this earth. So because you have dominion over it, you can do whatever you want with it because it doesn't matter, you can plunder it. And then even when it came to finding our people, we all know about the doctrine of discovery and the papal bulls. What did it say? That because we didn't have that spirit the way they understood and believed, well, we weren't full human beings. And because we were considered not full human beings, we could be subjugated in any way, shape, or form on anybody's whim. And it didn't matter because we were less than. And from the papal bulls and the doctrine of discovery and the whole so-called laws for justice when it came to us has already always been skewed. But like I say, this is a snapping turtle. I paint it up because when I talk about our great feather dance, or when I talk about the Ojibwe teachings, about the stages of life and all of that, it makes it a little bit more easy for people to understand. So we have our own creation story that is beautiful, that tells us about who we are. We come from love and we're turning back to love. And all of this fear base about where there's torment, that was never part of our people's understanding. We come from this place and we're going back to that place. And that's how I believe today about when we go back to the ancestor realm. So for sure, right here is where we're going to experience pain. You break your leg, you experience pain. We have all of these abuses, right? That all multi-generational trauma, all of that pain. People are hurting. And when you're hurting, well, what's the first thing you do? You want medicine. Nobody wants to be in pain. We come here to be happy, to sing, to dance. Hamba, hiba, yo, hamba, asha. Dance to creation. Be happy that all of these things will continue. But when you're in pain, you want to try to relieve it. So we have natural medicines. But today, because of all of the sickness, because of, these diseases of the mind and all this stuff. So, and then all the multi-generational trauma. So people even do sabotage when they look in the mirror. For some people, when they look in the mirror, they don't believe that when they look in the mirror, wow, I'm the most handsomest man in the world. Or I'm the most handsomest woman in the world. The beauty myth, and then Hollywood and movie stars and glamour and all of this. So then we don't even, show that love and affection for this only little thing that we can say is truly ours. I say if people want to have dominion over anything, you know what? You have dominion over your body. How are you treating this walking soil? Do you love it? Or are you contaminated with cigarettes, with alcohol, with drugs, with all this kind of stuff? Because somewhere along the line you decided and you thought to yourself, well, you know what? It doesn't matter if I destroy this. Well, it matters. Because whatever we do in our young age when we're foolish, all of that stuff is waiting for us when we get old. So you don't want to take care of your body, you don't want to love it. Well, we're going to see what happens when we get older and these things now come back, and then now we're not in the best of health because we abused ourselves. Well, all of that has problems causes to those problems. And it's this idea that when this new mind came over here, that we were flawed, that we were not good enough, that we had to be changed. And we look at these 215, and now it's more. I think it's over 300 because I think there was just another 100 that were found. So now we're looking at 315 little children that have resurrected from the dead through their bones. No, what is that all about? Well, it's simple. The whole impetus for the residential schools was based on the Carlisle Indian School, the first residential schools, and the motto of that school was, "We will kill the Indian to save the man." What was so wrong about our languages, our sacred ceremonies, our dances, our rituals, all of that was for the continuance of life. and then so this whole impetus, and it all goes back to, as I say, the papal bulls and the doctrine of discovery, because there was this attitude and this thinking that says when it came down to religion and worldview, well, it was religious superiority. And then when it came to them as a people, because they thought that they were so righteous in the eyes of God, that then they were like this. But our ancestors had it right. Because when you understand our language and what is all contained in this Kaswanta, it says in there that whenever we're going to get together to talk about anything, Jujuruntu, Zinizawanoda, Onakti Tuniji Asadadi, Nane Amhaa, Yori Hawana. Teginihatu, Nane Nezadakwanya, Toga Oskanundu Ohna Yumyadu, Nezatsta. Tanu Zinizaranoda, Agwegu Garana Sua, Ne Asataranode Nioni. Danu Zinizi Jotasu Zihumzade, Noda Duana Duku Tinistan Huza, Ne Onaxian Sayar again Nioni. Sok Tigo Ganano, Skatne on the Watsogo. So what I just said, that in the Turo, it says that whenever we're going to talk about our relationship and polishing that, first and foremost, we speak in our own language. The next thing it says that we dress up like our ancestors, with buckskin or what have you, feathers. The third thing, we're going to sing our own songs and remind people we have our own creation story. And when the Europeans got here and we made this agreement with them, our ancestors had the insight where they did not say that this agreement, Konekne Tinihadi Ronushuni Raunawa, Ohoniro, Tinu at Kara Kunagatne, Tinu yat the Watsotos Nugwadi, Tinihadi Nene Ogohue, Segu Gan to the Nagare, Wado Ronuha owns the Guineoni. So they said that when the Europeans got here, so we asked them, they said, well, who are you? So they said, well, they're from the old country. They said, well, what do you want? They said, well, we want to know if we can, if we could share this land with you. And we said, why? Well, they said, because where we come from, we're under the auspices and under the domination of these kings and queens, and we don't really have freedom. And they also said that we would like to have the ability to express our own religion. So they said, well, tell us about that. Well, they said, we're coming with God and his son Jesus. So they said, well, tell us that story. So they told the story. And the oral tradition says when they got done, they said, well, we think we're talking about the same sacred energy. We call it the Great Spirit. You call it God. So because of our different ways of expressing it in this in language, but we understand that we're talking about the same sacred energy. So you know what? When we do things together, we smoke the peace pipe. So they said, we'll smoke the peace pipe. We'll call on that sacred energy. We call it, Taru Yawagu or Sukwayat Diza or whatever. You say it's God or Jesus. It's still that same sacred energy. It doesn't matter what we're calling it in language. So we'll smoke the peace pipe and we'll travel this river of life together. And if there's ever a problem, we'll sit down and we'll resolve it. We'll smoke the peace pipe again. We'll call on that sacred energy to help us in our discussion, our deliberation, and we shouldn't have a problem. But at the back of our minds and their minds, we knew, and it shows, and there's a wampum belt that talks about that in the Friendship Treaty belt, that our people said that even though they said this, there's something that is disjointed and disconnected. Because what they said but what they were doing didn't line up. And we have the whole 500 years of history that proves that. And we know about having black hearts because our people had black hearts. Prior to the peacemaker coming here, there was cannibalism, there was a lot of murders and killing and rape and all those different kinds of stuff that when I first heard that story, I was like, how the heck could that happen in these modern times? But you just have to go look in the history book. Not too long ago in 1994 in the state of Wisconsin, there was a living cannibal. And then there's other people of since that time that we hear about that. So it's a human condition that people could easily, fall into once they decide that, I don't care about the sanctity of life. If that sacred fire burns in me and another human being, I don't care about that because I don't see that sacred fire anymore. All I see is something that I can justify that I have superiority over because of a worldview, because of an idea, because of strength or military or what have you. And I can go and subjugate those people because in my mind, I justify it. But in the bigger scheme of things, nobody, it doesn't matter who you are, has any right to take another human being. No human being has another right to rape women. No human being has a right to steal. Because we're supposed to, when we look at each other, see that fire, kahwadzire, odzire, is burning and we're all connected. But because of different ways of knowing and people trying to justify it from their own perception, so we have wars, we have murders, we have killings, we have stealing, we have all of that. But those people are just walking around with blinders on. Because once you fully encapsulate and you understand, who are you really? Ask yourself those questions. Who am I? Not just related to your parents, but where did you originate from? What's your genesis? Why did you come here to this world? What's your gift to this world? And what happens to you when you die? And for us, we always talk, we talk about our elder brother, the sun, because every day is a birthday. You look in the east, that sun resurrects out of the earth. That sun reaches a midway point, and then that sun starts to set, and the sun goes back into the earth. That's a reflection of our life. We start out small, we're born, we're going to reach a midway point, and then we're all going to start to set. And when I look in the mirror, I'm starting to set. Oops, I'm getting bald. My hair is turning white. I don't have all of that strength when I was in my 20s and 30s. And I know in a not too far distant future, I'm going back into the womb of my mother. But tomorrow that sun rises again. And we're resurrecting up. Not in the physical, but in the spiritual. And when we go back to that great mystery, because we understand it's something that is greater than us, then it causes us to begin to have some self-discipline. That not every stupid thought that we think that we're going to act upon, that we know that there's something greater than us, and then it gives us that inner strength to act in a good way, to cultivate the love, the peace, the friendship, to beautify this place, to keep our sounds singing and dancing and all of that. Because as I said, when you look at 100 years of a human life lease compared to eternity, this is nothing. So why do we argue about it? Why do we all do all this stuff? I mean, there's reasons for it. And it all has to do with money. It all has to do with this idea that all of a sudden people are going to use gold or silver or what have you to begin now to justify the idea that they're better than somebody else. So now because they got power, they got money, they got power. And then with that power then comes the ability to manipulate and control. So then what happens now, you have castes of different levels of people who think that, all right, we're the ruling elites, we're the masters, you are the working class, you are the poor people, and this whole system is flawed. Because when you look at your birthright, the peacemaker talks about the one dish with one spoon. He says that no, this territory where the Mohawks, Oneidas, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca live, you're not going to argue anymore about territorial boundaries. You're one family, one mind, one heart, one body. So you don't argue anymore about your so-called territorial boundaries. It's one dish with one spoon. You don't bring no sharp instruments when you talk about this. We eat cooked beaver's tail. We have 7-span stick of skin so that we don't get anger and do this different kind of stuff. We talk about Gayanare Koa, Yoyanare. When we talk about Rodianesu, Royaner, Royanere, the whole aspect of that talks about being nice and kind. Because if you're going to have peace, that's the qualifications that you have. They talk, it says, when you kindle this fire, be careful, don't use chestnut wood because it shows all this fire, those sparks. What is that? That's anger. That's those sharp words. Because if you get people like that are in these positions of power, then what happens is people look up to them to leadership, and then they emulate what they do because they're supposed to be helping to guide the people. So this whole great law, what we call Gayanere Goa Yoyanere, the great nice, is all about that. And the root word in there is Ganoru. Ganorum Quatsara. Now when the Europeans introduced this idea of money, we didn't know how this thing has this ability to do all this different kind of stuff, because we call it Owista. Ewista extra, that bell that they introduced us, it's jingling. So because this thing is jingling, so when we talk about Owista, we're talking about this thing that jingles, that's associated with the bell. Ewista extra. Anyway, so then now, when you go to a store and you go and buy something, so in our language again, you go up to the salesperson, you ask that person, you say, Doni Ganoru. Do, which asks about the quantity, and Niganoro is to try to say if you could put some time of a worth or a value on it. So when we talk about love, Ganoru Quatsara, we say, because it's almost like a verb, we're saying that you're so valuable and precious to me. When we use that word, Ganoru Quatsara. And then because of this monetary system, so we say, well, Doni Ganoru. And when we look and when it's raining, we say Yogonoru. Why is that word even in rain? Well, in English, you hear a lot of people say it. Well, they say water is life. But it's not only life, it's sacred. It's precious. So our language helps to formulate in ways that English can't even really touch. That's why it's important that we, as much as possible, learn it if we could, or spend some time with people that know the language and ask these questions about, because it frees us, from this European English language thinking to other realms of knowing and understanding. And our languages are kind of like vanishing before us. And what we have to do is we have to ensure that the people that have Mohawk as their first language, like my mom, because when you look at the oral language proficiency tests, I can't speak Mohawk, but I can't speak like the old people. When it says that you have superior language capabilities, I'm still at the intermediate level. There's stuff that when I go and sit with the old people that they talk about that I can't fully understand. And that's the language that we got to ensure that we're going to pass to those next generations. And the only way to do that is we got to create these language nests. And it only takes 3 years to these old people and these babies to somehow bring them together. And those old people don't take that first language to the grave with them, that they pass it on to these new babies that are being born like now. Then we have the Mohawk immersion schools and all of that, and it's great. But I'm saying that we have to even look a little bit more about what we could do a little bit different. Because if we're thinking that we're going to have colleges and universities where our languages are going to be there, well, you can't have a speaker like me with just intermediate language when we're going to start dealing with science and all of these deeper realms of thought and understanding when we don't have that language to be able to do it. So anyway, so getting back to the two-row and why I talked about all of those things and them. Now, if this is us in our canoe and this is them in their ship, they're supposed to dance like they're supposed to dress like their forefathers. The way they came when they got here, that's the way they were supposed to talk about this agreement. Because they said they wanted to have subsistence. The oral tradition says that we gave them the depth of the plow. That's what they brought. So they can plant their wheat, they can have their cows and chickens and what have you. But when it come down more than that, none of that is theirs. Never was and never will. We said we would allow you to enter into our house where we could coexist together, but like this. But now it's like a seesaw, it's out of whack. But now what's happening is the indigenous spiritual resurrection is here, and everybody that resides in these lands that we call Turtle Island have to start to resurrect up, and it's happening. These 215, we look at what happened in Ganesatake in 1990, and again, look at that, what happened. Mayor Willett, with his big bright idea, said we're going to expand this Mohawk golf course, Oka golf course, and a Mohawk burial grounds, and we don't care about those ancestors that are there. This course is going to go to 18 holes, even if that's your cemetery right by there. So what happened? He calls in the SQ. They got their guns. Some of our guys had their guns. There was a exchange of gunfire. Corporal May gets killed. The bridge gets blocked here, and we go into this whole 78-day standoff. And there's people that talk about 1990, that was the watershed. But if we go back even before that, let's go back to May 1st of 1990. There was 2 men in our sister community of Akwesasne that got killed because Mohawks, because of the monetary system and capitalism, decided, well, we don't agree, so we're going to shoot at each other. Yeah, people that were for the progressives of casinos and super bingo and all of that. Then you had the other people that were saying, well, we don't want those things coming into our community because of what it's going to do to the fabric. And people went into, their own way of being stern about their belief, and guns came out and all of that, and 2 people end up dying. That was Tuesday morning, May 1st of 1990. On a Saturday morning of May 5th of 1990, that Friday night, I decided to drive up to Six Nations. When I got to Six Nations, I was going to visit Jake Thomas because I stayed there for a while. He taught me all kind of stuff about the Great Law, about the condolence, about Gariwio, and all those times that we had together, trying to start the Iroquois Institute and different kind of stuff. So when I got there, Yvonne says, Aguasasne are calling and they need help, and you guys got to try to do something. So Jake was on a tractor, disking it up. So we talked. We talked about all what was unfolding. And, Jake was kind of discouraged about a lot of things. And I said, well, I said, in spite of it all, I says, you're a Condole chief. You wear those antlers. I says, let's do something. He said, all right, I'm going to call a meeting here at my house. I'm going to call this guy. So anyway, we had a meeting. There wasn't that many people that were there. I would venture to say we're lucky maybe if there was 50 of us. Some of the chiefs, some of the clan mothers, some of the faith keepers, some people. And Jake says, well, now that we're coming to this point in time, we got to go call for the return of the peacemaker. So I said, all right. I called Tayandanega because I got friends there. I called a friend of mine and I said, there's about 4 or 5 carloads coming up. I says, can you put us up? I said, yeah, come on down. So we got up before sunrise. And this woman that helped us, her brother, took us to a place. And the tobacco was done, calling for this intervention. And that was Sunday morning on May 6th of 1990. So I always wondered, what was the spiritual significance of that ceremony that was done? And as a former altar boy, because when I was a little kid growing up, I knew nothing about my language or my culture or my history or anything like that. I hear about that story, about Jesus supposed to be coming back and the big resurrection and all of this. So while this ceremony was going on, I started to think about that. I said to myself, no, that's a great story, but that story doesn't originate here. And if there is any truth to that story, this messenger is going to go to that place across the salt water first. So I said to myself, get that thought out of your head, because what we're doing is steeped in our own indigenous knowledge, wisdom, and teaching of this land. So we did it. And, I wasn't too sure what to expect, but I said, I'm not going to have no expectations, just see what happens. So within 3 weeks, Elijah Harper gets up with an eagle feather and he quells the Meech Lake Accord. 3 weeks after that, then we have this whole big 78-day standoff with Canada and Quebec. Then with all of the turmoil and all of that, Tommy Porter takes a group of Mohawks back in the Mohawk Valley. Orville Looking Horse, who carries the pipe from the White Buffalo Calf woman, she says, I'm going to return. And when I come back, I'm returning as a white buffalo. So in 1994, first white buffalo was born. They gave it the name Miracle. And all the people that know what was unfolding in prophecy went there and came in humility to say, we understand this time that we are in. There's many things that go on. Some of us in Ganawage, we went vision quest and fast. We went go and give up food, water, family, all of that. And through the Ojibways with their teachings and all of that, we went vision quest and fasted over all of these things and these issues. One was a school teacher, two were school teachers, one was a school principal. Then we had one that worked for community service. We went vision quest and we were all transformed. We came back to Ganawage and we started a rites of passage for our youth. We said, don't smoke, don't drink, don't contaminate this sacred gift. If you want to do that, we'll give you some alternatives that will help you to get strong again, because we didn't have that. For a lot of us, our rites of passage was we emulated what the adults did. So it was drinking, smoking, carrying on. We're here for a good time, not a long time. And even myself, when I turned 18, my dad said, hey, son, you want to be a man? I said, yeah, just like you. So where I'm the former school principal and teacher, where I spent 30 years at the Mohawk Immersion School in that gymnasium, I went through a ritual initiation. And when that ritual and initiation was all done, I was welcomed into the lodge. And it wasn't the Sweat Lodge, it wasn't the Moose Lodge. I mean, it wasn't the fasting lodge. But you can come to Ganawagi right now, and you'll go see the lodge that we built. It's about 40 feet wide by 80 feet long, and it's the Ganawagi Moose Lodge. And in the Moose Lodge, do you talk about your language? Do you talk about your spirituality? You talk about all of this stuff? No. It's a place that I say just to maintain a certain level of that is not really aspiring and bringing us to another level of spiritual consciousness. And then the governor, now the big governor. The big governor comes up to me and says, hey, Kevin, we need somebody to run this lodge. We need a secretary. So I became the secretary of the lodge. In fact, the guys gave me their 25 bucks. I had all the ID cards with the stamp, the seal. I put my John Henry on there. Here we are, all full-fledged moose. And at that time, I had no spirituality. Because when I went to high school and I learned about evolution and the Bering Strait theory and all of this stuff, and then the Big Bang, I asked some of the guys older than me, big iron workers, go to New Manhattan, build the big skyscrapers, the bridges, and all of that. I asked them some of those philosophical questions. I said, what happens when we die? They said, you're dead. Oh, what about this idea about Jesus and God? I said, there's no such thing as that. That's all BS. And a number of guys told me that. So I was confused. I didn't have no real deep grounding. Sure, I was an altar boy and all of that. And all of a sudden, I came to a teenager years and I said, you know what? That thing is okay. But that's not my story. So I just said, I ain't going there anymore because that's not what we were. That thing was just imposed here. Anyway, and then my grandfather, they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. So we had that big celebration there. And the music of the day was, hey, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So have a good time. The sun ain't gonna shine every day. So we're here for a good time, right? I watched any of the commercials. Hey, you want a good life? Miller High Life. And they always got to show it with a nice, attractive, pretty woman. Hey, you want to be cool? Walk a mile for a camel. So I went through that stupid stuff. I didn't know any better. But one thing I know for sure is that I made a promise to myself when I was a little boy. I was 7 years old. I remember the house, the room, and I made a promise to myself. I said, if I ever become a father, my children will never, ever see me touch one drop of alcohol, smoke cigarettes, do drugs, be violent. Not to say that I never did any of that stupid stuff, but I didn't know any better. And when my girlfriend at the time told me that she was pregnant, I said, that's it. I'm changing. So my grandfather, he comes in, we get him into the lodge. They celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, and 2 weeks later, he dies. And at that time, I was terrified of death because of all of this fear of sin, the devil, demons, bad medicine. I used to watch those Dracula movies. I used to be afraid of the cemetery. Then there was even our own stories about people who would do witchcraft and bad medicine and all of this stuff. And then I saw that show, The Exorcist. And even though that movie came out in 1973 or 74, I didn't see it till 1977. But because at that time in my life, all I knew was these Judeo-Christian concepts and beliefs, it kind of scared the heck out of me. But I wouldn't admit it, about people being possessed and all of this different kinds of stuff and demons. And I was afraid of dead people. I won't go to any funeral parlor and all of that. Now here's my grandpa, the anchor in my life. And the night before he died, he came to see me, but I didn't have no time for him because I was 21 years old and I had other things on my mind at that time in the party scene. The following morning, my boss called me up because we were working, installing the water and sewer line in the community and then paving it and all of that. So, hey, Kevin, you coming to work today? I said, yeah. I said, why? He said, well, your grandfather died yesterday. And then I was like, you stupid idiot. You could have gone and see him because my younger brother came knocking on the door. That's what he told me, and now my grandpa's dead. So then I was always hard on myself about what did he want. So my grandpa died. That's June 22nd, 1978. December 12th, 1978, I got my first official job, office job, working for the Confederation of Indians of Quebec under the late Chief Andrew T. DeLille. And Ganawagi goes back, now get this, to the year 1680, when King Louis XIV of France decided he was going to give us Mohawks here. At that time, we were known as the Iroquois of the Sioux land. Wow, how gracious of him. And the land he was going to give us was a 2x4. 2 leagues by 4 leagues along the St. Lawrence, adjacent to La Prairie de Magdalene, that he gave to the Jesuits with specific orders to convert us and all of that. And the so-called 2x4 was exclusively for the Iroquois of the Sioux. And like everything else, it doesn't matter what goes on when it comes to land. There's other people that think that we're just in the way and they're going to claim it for themselves. So the priests rented it out to farmers. They paid rents, and then they were supposed to look after us because, again, we weren't considered human. So all of our affairs had to be, someone had to interfere or oversee us because of this paternalistic attitude that we were never equal. We were always less than. And then through that time to now, of that so-called 2x4, there's one little small corner of it left. We got about, what the heck is it now? They say, I think it's 47,000 acres as compared to the 9 million acres that we say that at one time was our original homeland. So then I start reading about all of this stuff, all of this history. I always hear about the Six Nations. So I went to go visit my dad's brother and my uncle. I said, who are these Six Nations anyway? What do they keep talking about? Well, he said, that's us. I said, what do you mean? Well, he said, that's the 5 Six Nations. So he named them all off. Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, then 1722 when they adopted the Tuscaroras. Heck, I thought those people were all dead. Just goes to show how much I was, didn't know nothing about anything. And that was the whole idea. We will kill the Indian to save the man, because when I knew nothing, I could be easily manipulated and controlled. But because of the death of my grandpa, because of now learning about our history, and then my daughter being conceived in February of 1979 and will be born in November of 1979. Remember, one of the guys said to me, hey, he said, there's a guy coming to the Garinuna school gym, where, as I said, I went through this initiation where I was a teacher for 30 years. They say his name is Tom Porter. I said, I never heard of him. I said, what does he do? He says, you can talk about the old way. So for whatever reason, I decided, let me go and listen to this guy. I don't know. Something drew me and said I should go there. I walk in the gym and there's a circle. Chairs in a circle. I look at that. The heck? That's strange. Nobody sits in a circle. What's all this about? you know, all the meetings I had, you have somebody, you know, you have a chairman, you got a sergeant at arms, you got a president. Everybody's following Robert's rule of law or order. I forget what it's called. Anyway, so I said, well, I'll listen. So I remember Tom Porter got up in his own little humble way. He introduced himself in his language. I thought that was strange. Hardly anybody was ever using Mohawk language to say what their names were. But he said something that was pretty profound and I never forgot. He says, before I begin with what I'd like to share with you today, I want to give you the key to understanding the universe. And as this young, wit punk, 21-year-old that didn't know nothing but thought he knew everything, I was thinking to myself, I said, holy heck, wow. You mean there's a key to understanding this universe? If there's a key to understand this universe, you don't know how bad I want that key. And you know what the key was? Sinidawayera, se unizarada. Honda Zinora Tana Hodum that he was done. Onaxi Unka to and Tadane, on the Hatkawe. And Hoda the one at Dunkwane, Ganuara Dunksara, Togani Honda Gari with that one. So what he did was he did the Thanksgiving address. And he laid it all out. And he says, when we understand this Thanksgiving address, we see that everything is a circle. We know that we originate from the sky world, we're here for a time, and we're going back home. So the earth is round, the mother earth is round, the elder brother sun is round, grandma moon is round, the blood in our body completes a circle. So we know where we come from, we know why we're here, we're going back home, and we're already guaranteed everlasting life. And I thought, wow. And that was so freeing just to know now that and then as I began now to, you know, because at that time I couldn't speak the language. I didn't know the creation story. In that 1 year, death, birth or conception and birth, and a teacher changed my whole life. So now getting back to this prophecy gathering. So when we talk about calling for the return of the peacemaker, all of that intervention, that spiritual and divine intervention is happening and it's continuing to happen. With all of these things that are happening here on this great turtle island, on North, Central, and South America. And in 2003, there was a ceremony that was done that I was a part of. And the message from the ancestor realm was that now we would have to call on the horses. We would have to bring the horsepower in. And these horses are going to have to come from the west, where our grandfather, the thunder beings, live. And these horses will come across the land. And when these horses come across the land, they're going to begin the process of wiping the tears of the 7th generation and beginning the healing of the Mother Earth. So at that gathering that we were at, that I was asked to do the opening for, with all of the different knowledge people and people that were sitting in so-called positions of leadership, both elected council and traditional, we asked, all right, do we have the land? Do we have the resources? Do we have the people? Do we have the money? Do we have all of that? And the decision was, we do. So then those horses started in Vernon, British Columbia, and they arrived on Six Nations Reserve on August 27th, 2004. But even prior to that, I was introduced to a video in September of 1999, and it was called From the Heart of the World, the Elder Brothers Warning. And when I seen that video, I went to Six Nations right away, and I went to go talk to grandmother, and I call her my Turtle Clan mother, Sarah Smith. I said, Sarah, when you get a chance, I said, look at this this video. So Sarah did. And around 1994 or thereabouts, I don't remember the exact year now, but we used to have so many discussions and talks about all of the stuff that we did. Even after like 1990 with, awakening the spirit within, healing the spirit within, freeing the spirit within, and then all the other dreams and aspirations that, she was trying to do and all of that, the roots for peace and all of that, but always, talking about who we are as a people and about our knowledge and our wisdom and all that. Anyway, she was in Guatemala and she met the Kogis. And the Kogis are the one that produced that video called From the Heart of the World, Elder Brothers Warning. And in there, it's pretty profound and deep about what they said at that time about the destruction of the natural world and how younger brothers have to stop what they're doing because they're bringing the world to an end, but the world ain't going to end. What it's happening, it's bringing humanity to an end. The earth is going to be here for another 4.5 billion years. We're the ones that, we go through the trials and tribulations of global warming and, the ice age, and then because it goes back and forth like that. Anyway, so she meets the Kogi. The Kogi said to her that we used to communicate with your people telepathically. And we want to come back and visit you sometime. So, as you all know, in May of 1999, they came. They said, take us to your sacred site. So Sarah says, I brought them to the Onondaga Longhouse. He said, no, this is a building. So she said, the only other thing that I could think of, they went up to the other end of the reserve at Silver Springs. Anyway, they went back to the Longhouse. They brought some grandfathers with them. So we're going to bury these grandfathers here. And we're going to make this connection again between your people and our people telepathically. So that was in May of 1999. July 22nd, 1999, Sarah calls me up and says, Kevin, you got to get over here. She says, you're not going to believe what's happening. So what? She says, there's crop circles on a new credit reserve in Clint's backyard. Oh, come on. I said, Sarah, crop circles. I said, who believes in that? I said, somebody took a rope, I said, with a piece of wood, knocked it down. Well, Shell, we're going to go up in a plane. We want to see the message from the air. So they went up. I didn't go. But when that message finally was shown, I knew exactly what it was. And for me, when you elevate it vertically, it shows two worlds. It shows the upper world and the lower world, and it looks like there's a spirit. It's not man or female, it's just a spirit. And then it's coming down to these levels and it's coming to the earth. So for me, that intervention that we asked for was shown right there. And I said, I know exactly what this means. When we call for that intervention, calling for the return of the peacemaker, that was just one of the signs. And then all of those things that happened subsequent to that, the horses coming across the land, the sun dance that was done there, and all of these things now are coalescing. And now I'm working at FNTI, and I'm bringing all of this knowledge. Why? Because we're talking and we're resurrecting up that spirit of the peacemaker. And when we talk about this idea of the one dish with one spoon, that's been hijacked. The ruling elites, the multinational corporations, and the billionaires of the world have took all of our so-called, when we say when we're born and we're supposed to have the right to all of these things because it's supposed to be afforded equally to us all, that's all been hijacked. So now we have to earn a living as opposed to be born and just live to live. But anyway, that one dish with one spoon, now that concept, we have to apply it to the entire world. We got to look at a new monetary system. We got to look at a new way that says that all of us are all in this together. There's supposed to be no super rich, and at the same time, there's supposed to be no famine and no poverty. We all should equally have the right to be at the bosom of our mother to get all of that nourishment that we need to love and enjoy this life, and that hasn't happened. So now we're all suffering because of capitalism, and now we're at the precipice. As some of the leading scientists are saying, we are the last generation now. It's in our hands about the fate of those faces that not have yet risen from this earth. About what are they going to inherit? Are they going to inherit a safe, clean, happy, beautiful, peaceful, loving home? Or are they going to enter something that's going to say, wow, I'm in all of this pain and this suffering and this turmoil and all of that. And that was never, ever the intent. So humans are doing this. And if humans can do it, then humans can have the intellect to say, well, we better change it. And because we're living on Turtle Island, and these lands were afforded to us in our creation stories with our language and everything, and then we have these invaders that came and are trashing it, we have to rise up to the occasion and help them so that we can all begin to see different, hear different, speak different, and we better start doing different because time is of the essence. And if the indigenous wisdom and knowledge of this land is not going to be adhered to, well, as we go down the road and our Earth Mother decides she's going to discipline us, well, we know that when she decides to do something, she's got no mercy. Look at Hurricane Katrina. Look at the tsunami in December 2005. Look at California that's burning, Australia that's burning. Look at this COVID-19. Look at Inuit community. Just within the last month, had to relocate 200 people because now of ocean rise. You know, the permafrost is melting. They're saying that if that melts, it's bringing on new diseases and sickness that was locked in the ice. There's so much. And I say this is our last chance to help to get everybody that immigrated to this country, and even a lot of our own people, that business as usual is over. We better start thinking of new ways of doing things while we still have time left. And together, let's make it better. So, in my role at FNTI as the Director of Indigenous Knowledge, I'm embarking on a 4-step process. Step 1 was, let's talk about our own Haudenosaunee Knowledge Tano yuki soto ga ogua nohodo untru Tiniji dadi ogade nohodo dao no hondo. So we did that. That was finished in March. We had one of our faith keepers from the Mohawk Nation in Akwesasne. We had another one of our faith keepers from Tonawanda, and we did that. So now we're engaging all of the knowledge and wisdom from our Great Turtle Island. That's step 2. That's going to end this weekend. Then step 3, based on the Goswanta now. So now what we're going to do, we're going to look at that big ship with sails, and we're saying, all right, bring us your scientists. Bring us your forward thinkers. Bring us all this knowledge and information that you have, and tell us what you know. And that will be completed by the middle of September. And all of this is based on the seasons. And then from September to December 21st, the fall, now we're going to have a think tank. We're going to bring the best of our minds of the canoe. We're going to bring the best of the minds of the big ship with sails. And now we're going to say, because we're traveling on this one river of life together, let's decide on the goals. Let's decide on the objectives. Let's decide on the recommendations that we're going to put forth to every level of government, from local, municipal, provincial, federal, state. And if we don't want to listen now to this voice that is a plea and a cry, well, down the road, if you don't listen to what we're saying here, then don't be crying when Mother Earth is going to decide to discipline us because of our stupid, childish behavior. All for love of money, power, glory, and the destruction of the natural world, because we were so locked up in our unwellness. So these 215 babies that are resurrected up from the dead and more coming, is all of these things coalescing now for us to begin to challenge ourselves and to come to this understanding that we have to come to terms with our true humanity. We're all in this together. We only got one earth, so we better start coming from this place of love, of forgiveness, of trying to reconcile, of trying to repair, and putting our best minds forward now about what we're going to do, because it's up to us. So anyways, I'm going to stop there. I'm long-winded too. I could go on and on, but I haven't heard from you beautiful women in a while. So I'd like to hear now what yous are up to and what yous have to say, because it's been a while. I mean, heck, Renee, I don't know when was the last time we spoke together. It's got to be maybe at least, I don't know, 10 years, if not longer. I think maybe I stopped in, Gail, at your store one time. I don't know, but that's been a while too. Is it your store or your sister? You were doing, I know, but you were doing something right in Oswego there at, anyway, but that's been a while though. But anyway, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just hope that, these little things that I'm doing and all of that is something that helped to enlighten you. That's some inner strength and joy and empowerment, because, this is what we know, this is what we understand. And so, yeah, so now go ahead. Thank you.
Person, and to be with you like tonight on this very important conversation that we're having, because there's so much that has transpired because of all of those things we did in the past. Like so as you were talking about all of those events that took place, back with Grandma Sarah, and that whole time, that was setting the stage for all of our work. And so we've all kind of like took a piece of that, and it's time now to bring all of that together. And so one of my projects, of course, is Land of the Dancing Deer. I'm creating there's a lot to it. But basically, it's an outdoor healing retreat center. That's just one of the main concepts of the project, but it's for the healing and also for the sharing of our knowledge and our, I guess what we're destined to bring the four nations together, all nations together, all roots together. That's what our destiny seems to be. And I remember when the Kogis were here, they were looking for that sacred site, and like you said, and when it wasn't at the longhouse, but they said it was the springs, the sour springs that had been taken from us so long ago with the government ditches being built. So there's just so much that came from those earlier meetings, and it's a pleasure to know that you're up at FNTI. Me and Renee were up there not long ago, and of course you're a very busy man, up there. And but it is time to rekindle all of those connections because I could talk to you like all day about the things that we've done and the things that we're doing, and the grandmother's voice is a prime example of that. It's like, again, it's like, how do we bring back those in the fold that have been taken because of 60 school and residential school? How do we make them, help them find their light and their soul again? Because it's different when you grow up on the res as opposed to knowing you're from the res or thinking you have family there, but not having any connection. You have this fear of finding your family. You don't know how to go about it and to do that. And so that's kind of the mission of Grandmother's Voice also, is to reconnect and to share teachings and get people comfortable in their skin again, because that's a really important part of spiritual connection of the land, and then also helping our visitors to know that the reason you sometimes don't feel that you need to move, you have to move all over the place, is because you haven't acknowledged the ancestors of the land. And so by just letting them know that there was a story, the Bible is a story, it happened somewhere else in another land, but we have our own stories. So it's time that we start sharing those stories, and that's kind of what we've been doing, and making a big change and making a big difference in the way people are seeing where they are, because we go anywhere and all we see is sprawl everywhere. Sprawl, 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 people, 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 but you feel the dead land. And so it's creating dead people. You walk downtown Toronto, what do you feel? Dead people. The spirit is gone. And so it's about bringing back that that light to all again. And so we're doing our little our pieces to help people to understand and to even know that they have a light, because a lot of people have forgotten that. So I know we don't have like tons of time, but I'm just again saying how great it is to to talk with you, and certainly want to support your project that you have been creating, because it is a wonderful project and the speakers are phenomenal, and but it's more the concept. We're at that time where we must start working together, and we have to start knowing what that is, bringing our people together, all people together again. So yeah.
We were very blessed to have Sarah introduced us to a lot of other elders that shared their prophecies. And the one I really admired was Thomas Banyanka.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and then Lee Brown, because Lee Brown was the one that interpreted that video of what was unfolding. And so we've had even Leon Sakatero. We've had so many people that came and shared their prophecies with us at Roots for Peace. And it was so amazing, because it was like the portals were being opened, and there was healing that was happening with our own people, because it was a time where we were people were saying no, don't bring that. But I like to always think of and thank you for the time that you brought those lovely helpers for us to heal.
Oh yeah. No, so that was with the Jari.
Yes,
I
the
still
Jaris.
have that. And, yeah, absolutely.
And then we did a lot of they trained four of us women. It was Gail, Pat, and I, and Betsy Buck, and we would be working on our people on a monthly basis. They would come in, they would visit us, and it opened a lot of minds. That was so important, and a lot of those people that we had to deal with, that were, as they say, the veil was over their eyes. Those things started to to be lifted, and they start to see. And I was so grateful that we, as one of the things that we did in Oswego, and people still didn't know that when we started making new additions to that, our community center and our community hall, and we made that youth lodge and the senior activity center there.
Yeah.
And I said we had gathered there where the pine, we placed that pine tree there, and I said we asked for the healing of our community, that their minds would be opened and that they would no longer be carrying so much grief. And they didn't know about that, and I was so grateful that seeing a lot of healing happening, and all because what do we have? We have Ganakosha, we have our own drug and alcohol. We've had all these different programs that come back into our community. We have our own lawyers. We have our own. So many things has happened because of that, and that's why I really like to say thank you to Sarah, because she opened a lot of our eyes and our hearts to seeing the potential of what was to be,
Right.
that we had a big role in what was going to happen. And so as a result, Gail and I have Sarah took us on a trip, and we were invited to many different sacred places, sacred lands, and they would share they asked us to come and they would show us their inscriptions on the walls, the canyons, and one of them was a tree of peace.
Wow, beautiful.
And so we saw a lot of things, and we got, as a result, Gail and I did a lot of traveling throughout United States, and then we established the Grandmother's Circle, and we traveled, and the people were really wanting to know, and the people's eyes were now being opened, and we were being invited all over, and we went to Arizona, Sedona, to do. We gathered there, and it was amazing because there was other women there, and they wanted to hear the grandmothers, and I think this is the opening of that portal where all the grandmothers were starting now to rise up and started to come together, and so as a result, the grandmothers have become very strong and being the forerunners today.
Well, beautiful. Well, that's all it looks like. So just one little other final thing then. So in 1992, when I went Vision Quest and Fast, so then I asked, what was the significance of calling for the return of the peacemaker? And in the dream and in the knowledge that came, here it is. The peacemaker never left.
Mm-hmm.
Peacemaker resides in the center of everyone's sacred being. And what they have to do is they have to do that inward journey to go within. Because as much as you think that it's all out there, Great Spirit, Creator, God, Jesus, whatever you want to say, it's equally within here. And Black Elk understood that because he came to the home of the universe, where movement and stillness, when you bring movement to its smallest minutia, you get to where it's not even moving. Movement is time, stillness is eternity. And he taught that that hub of universe, that sacred center, was on Harney Peak. Then he came to the realization that, oh, it's in the sacred center. Then he came to the realization, but it's not only here, it's in you, it's in every human being.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if everybody understood that. All wars end immediately. All rapes end immediately. All stealing stops immediately. Because you see that in the sacred web of life. You are so insignificant, but you are still part of that greater spiritual whole. And when you see all of the interconnectedness of all of that, it changes your relationship with you, how you treat this walking soil. It changes the relationship of how you deal with people. It changes your relationship about how you understand the mother and the bosom, that nourishment of life that she gives you every day in unconditional love. And it changes your relationship with the ancestors and the ancestral realm about why we're here and where we're going when we leave this place one day. So, anyways, I came to that realization that you got to go within. So 2 years ago, this June, a good friend of mine here in Ganawage, she said, "Have you ever heard of transcendental meditation?" I said, "No." I said, "What really though?" I said, "Yeah, I think the first time I heard about it, because my favorite rock band growing up as a kid was the Beatles. And in the mid 60s or thereabouts, they went and they spent some time with the Maharishi. And I always thought that guy looked a little peculiar because for some reason, I don't know, the way he was dressed, I said, I don't know, it looks like this idea or vision that I have of Jesus or something." Anyway, so she says, I said, "Well, what is this all about?" Well, she says it has to do with doing that inward work. Because when we look at meditation, there's what sometimes they refer as mindfulness. There's focused meditation where you look at a plant and you just, you know, you're focusing your attention. And then there's TM, transcendental meditation. They take you to an orientation, they give you a mantra, and then you just close your eyes. And for twice a day, 20 minutes a day, you connect with you. So I knew that because that's what it's all about, connecting within. So we got involved with the Montreal Transcendental Meditation Center. And then after a year, we started our own and we gave it a Mohawk name. We call it Skana Iga. Skana, which is peace. Iga means it's here. Skana Iga. And then just 3 weeks ago, one of the women, True Dream, envisioned this living willow dome. So, when we talk about the celestial dome, and then the tree in the center of that dome and all that, it's all tied with our creation and that. Anyway, she was scrolling online and she came across this idea that this guy will make you an actual living dome. And so we went and we built it. So what happens is these willow trees, they're willow shoots about the size of my thumb. He grows them, then he refrigerates them, and then he brought them. We erected a circle, and then it's all tied together, and then it's weaved. And now, because of the brightness of the day, the roots are going to actually grow roots. It's going to grow shoots and leaves, and it's an actual willow dome. And we built it on the high school property under reserve to help our high school students to deal with COVID, to deal with all of this multi-generational trauma. So not only does transcendental meditation take you inward, but then you go in this actual living dome to go in like another, if you would say, womb of the earth. Because when we do the sweat lodge, well, that we cut the saplings and all that, and it stays there, but those saplings are not alive. But here you go into an actual living, it's a dome, but it's actually like going into the womb of Mother Earth with all that livingness to help with healing and getting our people well and all of that. So that's all part and parcel of this inward journey. And we are who we have been waiting for. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to see that sacred energy exists within all of us, and when we find it, then we transcend to that our level of spiritual consciousness, and then we make the changes on those levels, individually, socially, with our relationship to the earth, spiritually. Yeah. So that's another recent thing that just happened.
I love it. This is just so amazing. You know, as you're all speaking of Sarah, you know, my awakening, will say, awakening my spirit happened, and the hill that I was standing on, and I remember it like yesterday, and I had my face to grandfather's son, and I you know, I knew there was something I was ready to do, and when I surrendered, and it was probably maybe a little while after that I met Renee. Through
Okay.
the journey, through Karen's place, you know, I spent time with her, and I said, "Oh, who's that lady with the Dalai Lama?" And she's like, "Oh, that's my mom, Sarah." And I was like, "What? The Dalai Lama?" You know, and then Renee, you know, when we traveled, you and Gail took me to, you know, Massachusetts and through Mohawk Valley and took me home. And I was like, whoa. I think I even said it to you guys a few times, like, whoa, you know, the work that needs to be done is, you know, it's not that it's heavy work. It's such good work that it just has inspired me, continues to awaken me to be in this space and be so honored that I'm here with you all doing this, and everything that you spoke about. You know, Kevin, I was like, you know, whoa, you know, Kevin's gonna come and talk. And, you know, I you know, checked you out a little more. I creeped you a bit, you know, before you came on here. And wow, like everything that you're saying is, you know, what the grandmas have been saying for so long, like the whole time. And now I know what I do. I know why grandmother's voice, you know, my grandmother's voice, your grandmother's voice, all of our grandmother's voice want us to live the good life.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Grandma Renee always, you know, she tells me that I'm the translator. I'm not a very good one yet. I think sometimes, you know, I'm learning how to be that way and to be in the presence of all of you. It really makes me feel really confident and honored that I'm here with you, and that I can say that I'm on my journey with these amazing knowledge keepers who are changing the world.
I'll end with one final story.
Sorry, Renee. Yeah.
So since we, my family, my dad, and all of us, we got involved with following the White Roots of Peace to the Great Three, and our whole lives all changed because my dad was in the Moose Lodge. Well, he got me in. Well, we left that lodge and we came back to the spiritual lodge now. Anyway, so, you know, there's been a phenomenal changes about what has happened. But the day that he dies, well, like everything else, we don't know that he's going to die that day. But he ended up getting a heart attack. And when he got that heart attack, it was just before Christmas in December of 2014. So I called Akwesasne. We brought the wampum. We brought one of the chiefs. We brought one of their you know, one of their faith keepers, because it's not right for me to do it on my own father. You know, you help from the opposite house side of the fire. Anyway, we did ceremony, and my dad came out of it, and he lasted 8 more months. About 4 months after his heart attack, I went to go sleep at my parents' place, even though I got my own house and whatever. And when I got up that morning, my dad said to me, he said, "Son, I want to tell you something." He said, "If something happens to me again," he said, "don't try to do anything to save me. I want to go home." I said, "Well, Dad, you better put that in writing. Do not resuscitate, because, you know, doctors in the medical field, you know, they have a different view about that." Anyway, we did all that. So because he said that, and I knew that he was kind of like just looking forward to going home now, because you know, he was suffering, he couldn't really breathe, and didn't have all the mobility that he wanted and all of that. So when he started getting so weak he couldn't hardly walk, well, we have a little hospital here right in Gunawaga, so he was there. He was only there about 3 days. And on that Monday morning, on August 17th, the phone rang about, I don't know what time it was, maybe 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. So it's my mom. She says, the hospital just called. Your dad fell. Go see what's up. So when I got there, I got in. The nurse said, I already called the ambulance because he's on this blood thinner, Coumadin. And because of the head trauma, when he fell, he had lumps on his head and big cutter here in his arm. They said, we want to take him for x-rays, make sure that there's no hemorrhaging in his brain. I said, all right. So when I walked in, I said, how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay, da, da, da. I said, all right, we're going to go to the hospital. I'm going to jump in where you were getting an ambulance. All right, so we get to Montreal General Hospital, Jewish General. And they did the x-rays and we're waiting for the tests and all of that. And I remember the last big conversation I had with him. He said, what time is it? I said, it's 8 o'clock. He says, well, come on, let's go home now. Well, I said, let's wait for the results. Well, I said, come on, well, let's go. So in a nice, kind of sweet way, I kind of talked him out of it. So he just kind of, put his eyes back. Anyway, I had given him some water. I scratched his back. And then it was around, 20 after 9 or thereabouts. All of a sudden, I look at him and I see him going into cardiac arrest. So the doctor was there filling out paperwork. All of a sudden, the buzzer went off. So he jumps up. And the defibrillator's on the wall, so he was going to give it to him. So I told him, I said, nope. I said, don't give it to him. And he gave me a perplexed look. I says, I don't have the paper on me right now, but he already specifically said do not resuscitate, so I said, just let him go. Anyway, so I grabbed his hand and I spoke to him in Mohawk until he transitioned over. Then I gave him a hug to be with his body now for that little bit. So anyway, when the doctor pronounced him deceased, and I was with him, so then I called the family and they all came to the hospital. So we stayed with his body till it got cold. When we left the hospital and went back to my parents' place, it was hot that August 17th. And I said, I'm going to go sit on the porch. So I went to go sit on the porch. And I had time to just kind of reflect a little bit. And then my partner said to me, she says, hey, what kind of bird is that on the line? So I look up and it's a mourning dove, but there's only one. So that's what I tell her, mourning dove. So why is there only one? Well, I said, probably be a sign that my mom's going to be alone by herself for the rest of her days now. Anyway, as I started to think and reflect, then all of a sudden I start to feel guilty. Because I said, even though that was my dad's wish, I told the doctor, let him die. My dad will probably still be alive right now. I don't know what condition, but I told him to let him die. So then I could feel my eyes start to welt up and that lump coming up in my throat and that knot in my stomach. And then as I was thinking that, I started to remember of another story of a bird on a line. And in 1999, again, 1999, so my dad came and visited me. He's coming up the back step, and I go and open the door, give him a hug and a kiss, and tell him how I love him. And where my clothesline is, and my clothesline is literally this close to the door, a foot away from where I am, this little fledgling robin lands on my clothesline. The clothesline is dangling like this, and just then now, the robin, he's screaming out there. You know how things work, right? Anyway, so this little baby robin. So I told my dad, I said, you see this little bird? I said, this little bird is a messenger. I said, we're going to get a message. Watch this. So he came in. I made coffee. We're drinking our coffee. All of a sudden, the phone rings. And it's Tom Porter. Tom Porter says, Kevin, I need a favor. He says, our good friend of ours, and he mentioned his name. He says his 3-year-old daughter just died. He says, I promised him that I would go and help with the funeral. He said, but I can't make it. He says, can you, if I give you the address, go and help with the little girl? I said, yeah, give it to me. So I went down and took care of that. So second story, bird on the line. So as I was thinking about all of that, those things and those memories that I have with my dad and all of that, the good and not so good and all of that, and then feeling this emotion of guilt. So then I closed my eyes. I said, Dad, I said, you're in the ancestral realm. You can traverse the physical to the spiritual just like that. We know that when we pass on, we go into the Great Sky World Council forever. How it is. I said, if there's any way you can communicate with me to give me a sign between father and son that will help me to deal with this guilt that I'm feeling. I said, if I open my eyes and there's something there, I said, wow, that'll be great. I said, if I open my eyes and there's nothing there, well, you know what? The life expectancy of a typical Canadian, not that I'm a Canadian, because first and foremost, Haudenosaunee. Anyway, so the typical lifespan of a Canadian is 77. At the time, I was 57. So I said, well, Dad, I said, in 20 years, I'm going to join you in the Great Sky World Council, so keep the seat warm, because I'll be with you and Grandpa and all are the ones that have gone before. So then I'm thinking to myself, I said, imagine if I open my eyes and there's a sign. I open my eyes and I'm like, where the heck is my camera? I said, where's my phone? I said, hurry up, get it. She says, what? I said, never mind. I said, I got to take a picture of this. I said, because if I tell the people this story, they're going to say, no, that's not true. You just made it up. I don't know if I have the ability to share screen on here, but I can show it to you. Just 1 second.
Go ahead, Renee. Yeah, you do. You can share, Kevin, and all. It's right on your page.
I would like to hear from Wendy.
She actually had to leave because her to cook for her niece's feast, or for her niece. She had to cook for her niece. She left an hour ago. Yeah, she left a while ago.
Okay, because she was impacted with that. That's when she got really connected to understanding. Her story is very powerful, and Sarah also had. She came to one of our gatherings, and she was part of a prophecy. And her stories can validate that going inward in a journey. And as a young girl, we had this elder from New Zealand come, and he said he came here because there was going to be proof, and Wendy was that proof that there would be a young girl that was strong in her way that would be showing another indigenous way. And she was visited by that white buffalo calf woman. Mm-hmm. So that's a powerful story too. Mm-hmm. How she has made her journey. Because of that, she has done a lot of work for the people.
Right.
Mm-hmm. She has 2 books herself as well.
Yeah, she wrote 2 books.
So Kevin, right there on share, it says share with a plus on it. You should be able to do that, and then it'll bring that up.
Oh, you mean if I go on my
right below the screen, it says mute cam mic share.
Okay, so let me go to share then. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit. So what happens is the message comes and it's written in the clouds. So my dad's name is Freddie. Our last name is Deer, and this whole story started because my partner says, what kind of bird is that on the line? So now when you look at this picture, you're going to see those 3 things, the letter F, the letter D, and a bird, all in the clouds. Did it come up?
No, so what you have to do is, you know where it says share screen, and then it'll be, you have to, at the top it says entire screen window Chrome tab. Hit entire screen.
Where do I see that. No.
It's not. So choose what to share.
Yeah, I already highlighted it. Okay.
Okay, so tap it in the middle to exactly what you want to share, like that entire screen.
I have to bring it into the. You mean to highlight it?
Yeah, you just have to, under entire screen, tap underneath where it says entire screen. And then once you do that, and then you press share, then you go right into your picture. You would highlight it. Sorry, we didn't have time to do this before. So where are you right now?
I don't see where it says entire screen. Well, here, what I'm doing, I'm just going to try to do it this way. I don't know if it shows. I'll try to keep the glare out of it. But you can see that there's clearly a letter F on the opposite side of my finger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you look right here, there's the
Yeah.
letter F. When you come over here, you'll see there's a bird. There's the head of the bird, and then the body. And then if you look and you examine in the wing, you'll see the letter D.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
So I apologize, it's not clear, but if it was,
I can see it.
you could see it more clearly. So anyway,
I love it.
to me, that is absolutely no doubt about our ancestral realm, that this is just a transition that we go through. We become part of a greater sacred energy. And from time to time, some of us will tap into that, or they will guide us and show us. And then we become the messenger to try to reinforce this idea about how, we're spirit forever. We're here for a little time. And we have to ensure that we understand that, because that power of spirit, it gives our spirit the rejuvenation that it needs, so that we can start to rise above, to think different, to speak different, to hear different, to do different. Because that's the only way we're going to do it. We're not going to enforce anybody. We're not going to use any manipulation, control. We're going to say, here's some indigenous spiritual wisdom. If you want it, it'll help you. And if you don't, that's okay too.
That's my work, Kevin. I'm like, come on, people. It's so practical.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
This has been so wonderful. We have some really great messages here, and you can flip back and visit them on our Facebook page if you wanted to, or I can share them now. But I think we've already been on here for a couple of hours, and I know Renee, you called it right from the beginning. You were like, "Oh, this visit could be long," so it was really, really wonderful. Inspiring, and you bringing up your your family traveling home has brought some messages from people, and it's just really to be able to talk about these ways of life, I think just really helps people heal. And so thank you for being able to share this. And did you want to add anything before we leave for the evening?
Well, if anybody else, the last thing I'll say is I'm just going to end with a song.
Yes.
Because we need song is the universal language of the universe. So if we're ready then, and it's just simple, because a lot of times we say Ona, like live. But anyway, I just incorporated in a song, and it just goes like this: Ho 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 nagi wahi, ho nagi wahi, ho nagi wahi, ho nagi wahi, ho 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 nagi wahi, ho nagi wahi, ho nagi wahi. Yeah. Woo! All right, it was great to see you all, and we'll be in touch again.
Yes, and I put the link in here for your weekend gathering, And we've been sharing it, and we'll continue to do that the rest of the week on our Grandmother's Voice platform and in our
Yep.
community.
Well,
Thank
this
you,
is-
Uncle. It was very nice to see you. Nice to see your beautiful faces, Renee and Gail, as usual.
All right. Group hug. Group hug.
Yes. We'll see ya.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.